Perhaps the ugliest guitar that Gibson has ever made. And Gibson has made some ugly guitars, but check this out. You know, this kind of has the appearance of an unfortunate melting episode with a Firebird or an Explorer that didn't get fully developed in the womb. I don't know. Leave your comments if you want. One thing about the guitar, though, is it might have been ugly, but it was expensive. Funny. How does that go, you know? Some of the most expensive houses in this town are some of the ugliest. So maybe there's a common theme here. In order to get the full ugly, you got to spend a lot of money. So this was the Gibson RD Artist, made in 1977, or at least this one was. They made these for a few years. Gibson was trying to come up with something new, something, I don't know, state of the art, so to speak, not just another regular electric guitar. This one had Moog circuitry in it, hence the gigantic cavity in the back, and part of the cavity cover is missing. There's supposed to be a battery in there to drive the circuitry, which had, as I remember, some sort of a treble boost and compression. This is before people were using a lot of foot pedals. So I guess they figured, well, build it into the guitar. You build enough stuff into the guitar becomes maybe problematic and no longer reliable, which these were. As a matter of fact, a lot of them got sent back to the factory because the circuitry, sophisticated Moog circuitry, crapped out. And so they came back on the market with a stamp on the back of the headstock indicating it's a factory second. So factory second, it's like its second time around. It went out, crapped out, went back to the factory, they fixed it and they put it out there, but it's no longer new, so they had to call it a second. So that's what this one was, and that's what a lot of them were. When I see them on eBay for sale, a lot of them, you look at the back of the headstock, it's got the same stamp as this one. So that indicates that a lot of them failed, the electronics. But the actual construction of the guitar or the wood was very robust. It's a Norlin era guitar. They tended to be overbuilt and heavy. This is no exception. It's not that heavy though. It's under 10 pounds, but not much. It's all maple. The body, the neck, it's all maple. But it's not really thick. It's very much like an SG or a Firebird, although it's not a neck through guitar like a Firebird, and it's not a mahogany body guitar like an SG. So it's pretty weighty. It's fairly well balanced though, because the body is quite heavy, even though the neck is heavy. The other thing that's weird about these guitars, besides the odd circuitry, which this no longer has, is the scale length is 25.5. It's the Fender scale length on a Gibson. This might have been the first time they'd ever done it, as far as I know. So they put these out on the market, 3 models. I think there was a standard, a custom, and the top of the line being the Artist. And the Artist was the one with the Moog circuitry and the ebony fingerboard and mother of pearl inlay. No binding on the fingerboard though, so it's not quite like a Les Paul Custom or any of the jazz guitars that had ebony fingerboards. But it did have this kind of funny little headstock motif in mother of pearl. This guitar is very weathered. It's spent many, many days out of a case, many months, probably years in storage. A friend of mine inherited it, and then he was leaving the country, and so he said, here, take this. And it was not functional. And so I had my friend Mark Brown rip out all the Moog stuff in it, and he gave it back to me with just some basic electronics, and then I further changed it by putting full 2-volume, 2-tone controls and 1 switch, 3-way switch, and some, these are throwback MXV 101 pickups, which I wanted to try. And I found a pair on the internet that were affordable, which these usually aren't. I would say in this guitar, they're probably not the best choice because they are kind of bright. And with all the maple in this guitar, It's really, really bright. It's like, of course, that's the bridge pickup, neck pickup. Not a little bit better, and then both pickups. The necks are pretty wide, but very, very shallow, very modern feeling. Big frets, big wide frets. Not that tall, but super, super wide. Very common for Gibson in the 70s. And, you know, typical stop tailpiece, tune-o-matic bridge. It's kind of, it's an ugly duckling, you know. I mean, it's a guitar that never caught on. I've looked everywhere to see a picture of a famous person using one. Haven't found one yet. I've heard stories that there's some people, like maybe even Jimmy Page owns one of these things, but a picture of him ever holding it and using it in a show or even in the studio, I don't know. Maybe you can find one. I sure couldn't. So yeah, not a real popular item, but they're coming back. They've reissued them, and people are charging or attempting to charge real money for stuff like this. You know, $3,500, $4,000 for this. Honestly, oh well, it's cool if somebody likes it. I don't hate it. I ignored it for 4 years, sitting in the corner of my shop with nothing on it. You know, it was just a husk, and so. I don't know, people come by and say, hey, what are you doing with that guitar? I say, oh, I'm not doing anything with it. Well, why don't you do something with it? Make it work. So that's what I did. I can't tell you why I did, other than I thought, well, it's a genuine Gibson guitar. It's a quality instrument, a very ugly quality instrument, but still a quality instrument. It deserves to be put back in running order. So that's what I did. What is my assessment of it for what it's worth? Even if you don't care, I will tell you. It's heavy. It looks really funky. It's very bright and kind of nasty sounding. Would I use it for a gig? If it's a place I don't like playing, yes, I would bring it to a place I don't like. And I think it would be a great addition to that kind of experience. It stays in tune. It's very easy to play. I like the neck. It's very modern. You know, it's not a chunky 50s style neck at all. It's a 70s neck, you know. Made for, I don't know, not really fully made for shredding, which is good because I can't shred at all. I just play old geezer stuff. So there you go. Gibson RD Artist 1977. My next video will be about relic guitars, why I think they exist, and who are the people who are buying them. And yeah, there's a whole reason behind it. It's not necessarily a fad. I'll talk more about it later, next video. Thank you for watching.